All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Evan Here's Culture campaign. Today, we've got a special guest on. He is responsible for so many things. He's got so many credits, but yet he feels such deep shame about all those things that I won't mention any of them by name. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the great Aaron Axelrod. And the one credit I'll mention is that he's been on the show before. Aaron, how are you?
I mean, it's undeniable that I'm an incredibly talented guy. It's just the issue is I can't, I can't be Mr. Public, I can't be Anthony Weiner, people are going to come after me.
Right. Yes, the news media is going to
Well,
take you
no,
down and
Anthony Weiner deserved to be come after. That was
right,
just
right. That's
when
yeah.
I
Fair
thought of
enough.
who has a public career, my first thought is always Anthony Weiner, Al Franken.
The two of them combined.
What if we dug into Al Franken's past and we found even more? Like, what if it turned out that he was like a sketch comedian? Wouldn't that have tanked his
Oh
career even
God, that
faster?
would be horrible. That would be awful. Oh man, if something like that were to happen to him or happen to, I don't know, like Zelensky or one of those big, powerful figures like that, that could be. Imagine if a president was like a TV show host. Wouldn't that be so fucked up?
That would be fucked up. And if I bet you that's why I bet you most of our presidents were TV show hosts, but they're hiding their credits because they know that they can't have a public career and sketch comedies.
They got their IMDb Pro account and were able to pull everything off the list. But anyway, speaking of people who try to hide things, we've got a man here that we're talking about today. He doesn't try to hide anything. This is a man who puts it all out there on Front Street. He is the kind of figure that MF Doom might be referring to in rap snitch finishes that song. This is the guy who's going to get the whole label sent up for years. It is the great. Well, it's Waka Flocka Flame. We're talking about his 2010 album Flockaveli, from what I understand, a trap classic, a trap masterpiece, the Rosetta Stone on which most all of it trickles down from. Is that fair to say, Aaron?
I wanted to do more research coming into this, but I didn't get a chance because doing research for this show feels like studying for an exam that after you've already passed the class, or studying for an exam in a pass fail course where it's like impossible to. It's like you just wake up in the morning. It's like, oh, I got to do that research for the Evan Here's Culture campaign. And then a little piece in your brain goes like, oh yeah, who the fuck cares?
Gives a shit.
I mean, I do, but I follow the leader, and you're my leader in this case. I have heard that this was the first major popular trap record that trailblazed the genre into the mainstream from 2010, to where it is now. That's what I heard. Who knows if that's right? I've heard the word first trap record thrown out. I can't imagine that's true, but
that can't be true. That can't be true.
Yeah, I
It's
can't
got to
imagine
be
but
the level of popularity
yeah.
is got to be the driving force of why it's so influential on the genre. But so I'm curious now, Aaron, because you're saying you've heard, and I was wondering, you've got last time you did the show, you were doing Playboy Cardi's Playboy Cardi, and that was like 2 years ago, and you said I would come back and do Flockaveli. I said great, and now 2 years have elapsed. And so I had imagined that album, you were very passionate about it. It was a big part of your life, but I guess you weren't there ground zero in 2010 listening to it right when it came out. So when did it enter your life? What drew you to it?
I'm not really big into stories. I don't care like how an album like came into some of these. I'll answer the question because you asked it. But I was at camp. I was at summer camp. I was working a job. I was a code teacher. And, everyone's given up on rap music. I still every week I listen to like 4 to 5 rap albums. it's and this is not related to the story. This is just a thought that I wanted to get out. I'm not giving up on rap music. I have friends who are like rap fans who are like, yeah, I haven't listened to rap I have two people who come to mind who's like, yeah, I don't really listen to rap anymore because the genre has kind of gotten stale. And it's like, I grew up in an era where, like, if you grew up in an era of radio or your parents' taste kind of determined what you liked, you know? When I was a kid, before I could pick my own music, I listened to the pop charts radio, and I listened to my dad's Billy Joel records, and who did Masquerade? That cover of Masquerade. It's like George Clanton, or it's not George Clanton. I don't know who it is. The Pretenders. But then, you know, when I came of age at like 13, I grew up in like the iTunes era, where it's like I could determine I had the entire world's worth of music to listen to. And the first songs I purchased were Not Enough Words, Action Bronson and Static Selecta, and Rigor Mortis, Kendrick Lamar. And then some song that was a gimmick rapper who was like an Asian guy, and his name was racist. I wish I could remember.
Okay, yeah, right.
No. It was like, you know, like a whatever.
I'll track him down. I'll do my research and figure out who that is.
And just like, you know, ever since then, like it's like I didn't fall into rap music for like the reasons that maybe a lot of suburban kids fall into rap music, where like you start with the culture. You start like hearing like, oh, have you heard about this Lil Wayne song? It's like he's like lighting up a blunt in the intro. It's like you can hear him sparking up a blunt in the intro. Isn't that so cool? Like where they start with the culture, you get engrossed in the culture, and then you adopt the music as a way of trying to like associate yourself with that culture. Is a lot of the way a lot of the suburban guys I grew up with.
But you identified with the struggle, I imagine, and that's how you got into the music. Is that a fair assessment, Aaron?
No, I genuinely have not struggled once in my life with almost anything. I got it. I'm just like I'm a little like freak, and so it's like my favorite team is the Atlanta Falcons because I liked Mike Vick as a kid because I thought I was being edgy, and I was like, I don't like dogs, so I do like Mike Vick, and now I'm a Falcons fan for life. And so it's just like it's the first genre I heard. I'm sure if the first tracks I purchased when I was 13. That was what, 10 years ago? I'm sure if the first tracks I purchased were like, what came out in 2010? Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots. I'm sure if that was the first thing I picked out, I would be to this day listening to bad music and really like enjoying it. And
Cat Stevens ripoffs, yeah.
But anyways, your question. Shut up.
The summer camp.
I was at summer camp. But I'm not giving up on rap music. There's stuff coming out that's exciting. Ish, and there's stuff coming up that's still good. Yeah, so I was at summer camp. I was supposed to be doing my job, watching kids, but this summer camp boasted a 3-to-1 staff to camper ratio because a lot of the staff were campers, and it was trying to preserve like a sense of culture by funneling elder campers into becoming staff members. None of that hand movement showed up on camera. Literally, I didn't. But funneling campers into staff members to preserve camp culture, to really build a place where fucking nerds who are going to coding video game camp, you know, feel safe and feel accepted or whatever. So one day, one of my co-counselors comes up to me and he's like, hey man, during next class time, do you have any students? And I'm like, you know, I technically am sharing a student with this person, but you know, they teach them everything. They've already gotten past what I know. And he's like, oh, okay. Me and 2 other guys are going to go sneak off into the empty lounge, and we're going to listen to Flockaveli on my phone speaker. And I said, okay. I'm really not like a being irresponsible is fun kind of guy, although I understand it is. But like, it was literally just like, it's not even being irresponsible because I don't have anything I need to be tending to. I'm not even teaching a kid. So we just snuck off into this empty lounge and we turned off all the lights. And on this kid's phone speaker, we just listened to Flockaveli. And I was like, I don't get it because the audio quality is bad. And then, so when I got back to my dorm, I listened to it with headphones. And, you know, it's an album Whereas somebody who had already listened to a lot of like the up and coming like Florida SoundCloud stuff, and then a lot of Kendrick Lamar at that time, a lot of Flatbush Zombies at that time, it was just at the time it was the best trap music I had ever heard in my life, and to this day it's still up there in the pantheon of trap music. I would put it on my Mount Rushmore of trap albums, honestly. Right next to Grover Cleveland.
Yeah, Grover Cleveland Party. Yeah, I listened to this album for the first time probably about a year ago at this point, because as always, the optimist in me goes, this show's going to be coming out so quick. We're in a rapid fire period. It's going to be coming out. Time to start listening through the list of albums. Ooh, Flockaveli, let's go for it. And I listened to it while grocery shopping in the Ralphs. Had the headphones on and went through it, and then didn't return to it until a couple weeks ago to prepare for this episode, and then listen to it yet again this morning. So I've given it 3 goes around, and I think, my overall opinion is that I like it. I think even above the liking it, though, is the respect. It's an album that earns your respect, I suppose, for what it has done to music, what its influence is. I would say, I think if I were to point out problems, something that I like in my albums, I think it's not always the case, but with the albums that I tend to gravitate towards, I like a bit of variety in there. There are some great albums, there are plenty of great albums that are all about having a consistent tone throughout, but I think the stuff I like more, we've got more of a variety of tempo on some of these songs. We've got a variety of approach or instrumentation or of content, lyrical content, or maybe under a similar thematic umbrella, but with some changes here and there. That's not really what Flockaveli is about in any sense. Flockaveli is about hitting that sort of aggressive, in your face, I'm struggling to find other words, but style that is a consistent sort of, I guess, adrenaline rush. You could talk about the beats on this album, but for the most part, it's really just kind of one beat or one idea of, it's we've got all it's like Taco Bell, we've got all the ingredients and they're always the same, and we're just looking to put them in different orders. We got the gunshots, we got the brick squad, we got the Waka Flocka, we've got all these bits, and we're just rearranging them over and over and over again until we've got 17 tracks with a few differences here and there. But for those first 3 or 4 songs, when it's new, when it's fresh, when you haven't been listening to it for an hour and 12 minutes, it's great. I mean, what a lot of fun. Is that something you feel about or would you say that
Yeah, I think for me, like, I mean, the comment about length, it's like, sure, sort of, I agree with a lot of that. The comments about sameness, sure, I agree with that. I think it just comes down to how much the sound clicks with you determines how far it can carry you through the album.
right?
And I think one thing, well, actually, it's just like a side note to like put this in the context of like where we are with trap music right now, is trap music has gotten kind of quiet. The loudest subgenre of rap music I can think of at the top of my head is almost like the new sort of like hyper poppy like not even like plug rappers, but like the hyper poppy, like loud in your face, lots of electronic production on there. But like trap music, like Future kind of changed it a little bit, and same with like Gunna. It's gotten very stripped back to just beat and just vocals And all of these songs, I think what I appreciate them all in isolation, to tie it back to your point about length and about engaging in the, like, you know, do they sustain the hour and 12-minute runtime? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't heard this album in a long time. No, I'm kidding. I listened to it. I listened to it. No, I'm kidding. Again. I didn't listen to it. But in a bubble, they're all engaging.
And it's not really, I mean, you don't have to sit there and listen we're looking at it as an album, but you don't have to listen to all an hour and 12 minutes of it. You can pop a few songs, you know, in a rotation of all sorts of different artists you're listening to, and you can pull any one song out sort of and have you know, a good time with it. Whereas when you're got that concentrated burst, it starts to fall.
It's something that Noah Simons always looked for in music, a guy who I really have very little respect for. But he always is like to me, when I listen to music, the height of it is kind of like, how catchy is this? And it's like, I hate to agree with him, but I can't get around the idea that, like, yeah, a lot of my enjoyment of a song does come down to catchiness. And I think what this album does that a lot of fucking rap albums don't do is that it leaves things that stick with you. And you know, you've already pointed some out with like Brick Squad and Flocka and just all the ad-libs that are repeated motifs throughout this thing. But then even just some of the hooks. Sorry, I'm looking through the track list to see which of the hooks I can.
Well, I mean, you look at a title. You look at a title and the hook. Yeah. I mean, most of the hooks just are.
All my shooters train to go. All my shooters TTG. They train to go. Shoddy, keep a dough. Shoddy, get down on the flow. I mean, it's just it accentuates the words of the songs enough where they actually stick with you. I'm not saying that he's saying something. That's like the big difference that I get into arguments with people about, where they're like, you say you're like, because I say I'm like a guy who's into like lyrics, and then people go like, but you like the Little Pump mixtape, you like most of Lil Yachty's music, and it's like, well, they're not really. You like fucking Flockaveli, well, they're not really lyricists. And it's like, yeah, but you're looking at it from like you want Kendrick Lamar, Bob Dylan, some of the best rappers of our day.
They've been getting something in the media. Bob Dylan's brief foray into hip hop, which is pretty.
But like, that's what you think of when you think of good lyrics. But I think of anything that a human says that sticks with you, for me, is good lyrics, or creates some kind of emotional impact. And so it's like fucking who's Back Baby by Jessica Pratt. Yeah. Some of her lyrics stick with me, and how, you know, like deep and thoughtful and beautiful they can be. But honestly, they stick with me just as much as I go hard in the motherfucking paint.
I go hard in the motherfucking paint.
It's just like, it's like a goal. You know, you wake up and you want to go hard in the paint, and you want to live your life by the mantras that Flocka sets forth for you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we're actually talking about what my first exposure to Waka Flocka Flame would be, it is that Eric Andre clip of Hannibal Buress going full force into performing a little bit of hard in the paint. And I mean, just like to look through the tracks here, I don't know if there are any particular tracks that jump out to you, but today when I listened to it, I had the lyrics pulled up the whole time, was taking very minimal notes, started taking notes, and then the longer the album went on, I go, what are the point of these notes? These aren't useful. But you know, Bustin' Adam kicks us off, introduces us to the world, the sonic world of the album. What that
I'm busting at them.
Bitch, I'm busting at them. I mean, that's the thing, is you're exactly right, Aaron, that it like the lyrics being deep is different, but equal to the lyrics being impactful, right? Just the way that those lines are delivered in that hook makes those words, you know, it imbues them with such a power.
And there's this thing that they do across this album all the time, where the beat as I said, trap music's gotten kind of quiet recently. These beats, it's not just instrumental and rapping, it's instrumental, rapping, fucking sound effects, ad libs, dense as possible. But then for a song like Bustin' at Him, when he goes, bitch, I'm bustin' at him, they cut the beat, but it's just as impactful as when the beat was there. Because he has so much bravado in his fucking voice that it's just he alone can carry that energy through, which is, I mean, he's a talent. It takes talent, man. It takes talent to not be
To have
boring
that kind
making
of
rap
delivery.
music.
Yeah.
I listen to so much fucking boring rap music, and it takes talent to be interesting. And people want to discredit guys like Waka Flocka of like, oh, all he does is get on the mic and yell. You can hear thousands of albums of guys getting on the mic and yell. They suck. There's something better about Waka Flocka Flame.
The way he approaches it, and then
energy, the way he approaches it, the genuineness.
That one did have a line that when I was going through the lyrics I enjoyed, which is "Dick got her hooked. Now that bitch call me phonics." It's like, okay, well there we go. I mean that got a chuckle out of me. We've talked about this before about how great rap or not all rap oftentimes set up punchline kind of structure, and that one did it for me. Not necessarily. There were there's a lot of references things in the lyrics that I just don't think work cleverly enough to really pull something out. But that one was kind of fun. And then of course we go into Hard in the Paint, which is the highlight. Wow, we're already running out of time on the recording. Well, but that's the real highlight of the album for me. I think that's probably the highlight of the album for most people. Is that true for you as well, Aaron?
A lot of people are big No Hands fans. I
know they are, but
a lot. The club favorite is probably No Hands. Just because it's a little less aggressive. It's a little bit more focused on the hook.
It's got a song hook, which is the big difference there. Roscoe Dash is singing something, which is kind of a deviation from what happens on most of the album.
My favorite song on the album, though, is probably For My Dogs, with Hard in the Paint being second.
Oh, really? For My Dogs was one I noted as not being good this time around. Because the lines, the flow is off.
I'm going to rob, I'm going to steal, I'm going to ride, and I'm going to die for my motherfucking dog.
Oh, no. I like the hook. But there's that bit where he's like, I was told to calm down, spit my pain on the mic. I dropped one mixtape. 6 months later, my career took... And he can't even... I'm struggling to make it scan. And he doesn't... And I'm not a rapper. And he can't make it scan in the flow either on that track. He's struggling. He's struggling to make the meter pan out there.
No, it works. Sorry, okay. I was just listening back to it. It works fine.
Okay, sure. It most of that stuff does not stick out to me, but that time that jumped to me is something that didn't work. I mean, I like the sentiment of it for sure. For My Dogs and Homies, the sort of two friendship based songs on the album. Or I guess Train to Go is kind of friendship based as well.
A lot of rap music is or a lot of trap music specifically is friendship based. I think it gets undersold how much a lot of trap rappers really love their friends. I think Chief Keef is another guy who's always talking about his friends. And I'm not even saying, because like obviously there's like a naivete there of like, yeah, of course they're in a gang together, like they're like in a pact of like violence together. But, a lot of these guys, even when they're far separated from their sort of whatever, lifestyle they used to live before they became rich rappers, they're still rapping about my friend. He needs a couple thousand. I got him.
I got him covered. Friends. I'll hook him up.
I'll hook him up. I'll fly him out. There's a lady who has a friend. Guess who she's for? She's for Eric.
Not all the friends, though, referenced on this album are still friends, but I will get into that later. A little bit of the aftermath of the album. Train to Go, as I was saying, friends song. Okay, so there's a lot of features on this album of people I've never heard of before and I've never heard of since. You as the hip hop aficionado might be more familiar with
Same
it.
boat.
What's
Same
that?
boat. Never heard another YG Hootie, Joe Moses, or Baby Bomb verse. Never
Okay, well,
another.
Baby Bomb was the one I wanted to point out because I mean, there's no reason to ever hear another Baby Bomb verse because I think Baby Bomb has said all there is to say. With I'm Baby Bomb, I'm Baby Bomb, I'm Baby Bomb. I mean, that's about all there is to say. But yeah, I'm not familiar with Joe Moses or Shug Gotti or the other Tebow Gotti or any of these other people. Maybe there's a name or two on here. Wale, I know is a bigger name. Roscoe Dash, I imagine, is a bit bigger of a name.
He had a bit of a career after that song and before that song.
But yeah, that Train to Go. I mean, Hook Fun.
I just clicked Papa Smurf's Spotify page and it is empty.
This makes sense. This makes sense. Although he was he had one of the better flows out of one of the more memorable. I mean, nobody is bringing because it's an album about intensity, and nobody's bringing the same intensity towards it that Flocka is bringing. So it's like they all suffer in that respect. But Roscoe Dash is able to stand out because he's bringing a different take, and then P Smurf or whatever was kind of able to get some energy in there. And Cartier Kitten, I'm not familiar with who she is, but that was at least another diversion when that verse comes up on Snake in the Grass, something that takes us to another place. But Baby Bomb, man, good stuff, good fun stuff. If there's any then I'm gonna jump ahead. Fuck the club up. This is the one I mentioned this to you. I think back when I first listened to this, I was like, "There's a line on this album that really, really jumped out at me." I'm walking in the Ralphs. I'm listening to this thing. I hear the line in which on "Fuck the Club Up" when Slim Duncan says, "When we hit the scene, better jump the line. Or we gonna turn the parking lot into Columbine?"
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus Christ. That was the one time where I was like, okay, well, there's some shock value that's actually hitting.
Columbine's a very popular topic for rappers.
I'm sure it
there's
is.
a lot
Aaron,
of Columbine rappers.
Who are the best Columbine rappers? Who's the Mount Rushmore of
The
Columbine?
other one, I can't think of. I'm very bad with specifics, but the other one that jumps out of my head was actually on like a top 40 radio hit. It was Lil Yachty on Broccoli. It was like, if you touch my gang, I'm gonna turn this place to Columbine. Something like that. That's the only other one I can think of, but I know I've heard of it.
It's a reoccurring motif, you're saying. And,
yeah, Kurt Cobain comes up a lot. There's a lot of drop my top like JF Kennedy.
Well, that's pretty awesome, and that's far enough removed that it's only funny, and there's nothing.
We're not far enough removed from Columbine.
I guess we are. I
am. Maybe you are.
I'm still stuck in the past, man. I need to move to the future where
nobody who died during Columbine is even around today. So like,
that's a great point, Aaron. I hadn't thought about that.
It was that long ago that the people who died during Columbine
aren't around to get offended by it. Yeah. So it jumped out at me because I wasn't really taking in a lot of the lyrics that first time, and so that was really the only one that stuck in the ears. But one of these days I'll be as big a hip hop head as you, and all. I'm
gonna blow up like the Hindenburg. Are you gonna throw a fucking tantrum over that one? Oh, what if the Hindenburg?
Columbine off my fingers like it's a wad of paper. You
don't care. I don't understand why you think you don't care. Did I send you that video of those cartel guys dying in the car to a
Yes,
grenade?
that was a great video.
Yeah, see, you don't care. That's what I was looking for. Columbine.
Yeah,
Oh.
but they accidentally left the grenade in the car. There was less, but I'm not here to get into some.
Columbine's bad, by the way. I like Columbine was an
I
awful
believe
thing.
that Columbine was a bad thing.
The only thing I'm protesting is this handkerchief waving, as if you probably haven't laughed at
The pearl clutching.
15 9/11 memes in the past 38 hours.
Probably closer to 6 or so. But
I'm one of those guys. I don't think we should be joking about 9/11. I think 9/11 was insane. Columbine? We're going to draw the line at Columbine, but we're going to let 9/11 jokes fly?
that'll be for the future of rap. There's going to be some killer 9/11 bars.
They probably already are. I mean,
I'm sure, but those are the precursors to the really great stuff that's coming.
We have less than a minute. So do we want to wrap this up or?
No, I'll call you back and then we'll get the rest of it wrapped up now that we've settled our score on Columbine.
Yeah, I know. I just remembered that I opened this review talking about my public career and about how a lot of my personal projects I don't talk about because I don't want it affecting my public career. And now here I am, webcam on. But Columbine's a bad thing. I've said Columbine's a bad thing. It's just not. It's not. With 20 years removed, you can't mention it in a song.
Of course you can. I just hadn't heard it before, Aaron.
There's a mass shooting every day in this country.
Yeah, and not everyone can rhyme with so many words.
I think I'm giving you some gold.
I love the gold. Of course, you said I don't tell stories, and then you told a good story. I think that's the exact same thing C-3PO does in the first Star Wars. He says, "I'm not a storyteller," and then he's telling stories by the time.
I hate stories. I don't watch movies because I hate stories, and so it's obviously stories are made up of many parts: narrative, character development, humor, mystery, irony, whatever. The things that I really hate about story is I hate narrative and I hate character development. I can't stand them. They just aren't intriguing to me in any way, man. Buffy's a show completely built around character development. It's one of the most boring shows I've ever watched in my life. Why the hell do I care about any of these people? I hate it. They all suck. And then during the break, on Twitter. I got fed this video of Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis apologizing.
You know what? I watched the exact same video during the break.
And my thing about that is, my first thought is just thinking about Joe Jonas and his wife breaking up. It's I'm glad they're still together. They seem like they are a unit, and that they love each other and that they're standing together. That's not, you don't see that
making money together and.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course they're rich.
No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not saying that.
When the fucking class war starts, I'm not going to spare Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis. Actually, what the hell am I talking about? I don't give a fuck if the class war starts. If the class war starts, I'm hiding inside and waiting for all the leftists to be killed, and then going back outside and being like, "Can I still vote for Bernie?"
Yeah, I'm in the center. The center is the new left. And so, anyway, though, Homies, I mean, that's a song that on Genius, there's a lot of question marks because it wasn't able to make out many of the words that the people doing the features are saying, which I hadn't really seen that before. So that stuck out to me as being memorable. And then when we start getting to this point in the album, kind of cresting that halfway mark, that's when my brain really starts to disengage from it, where the fact that it's been built around this loud intensity is losing its power, just as we were saying, in the sort of endurance run of actually going through the whole thing. And I started to be thinking about, my brain really started to wander, and I started thinking about, I'm sure you've seen that video of Vivek Ramaswamy on Fox News rapping for Steve Doocy. Have you seen this, Aaron?
No, I've not. Is it related to the whole Eminem stuff?
No, well, yes, he's talking about how he used to rap in college, and Steve Ducey's like, will you do a little bit for us? And he goes, all right, my name's Vivek, rhymes with cake.
My name's Vivek. It rhymes with cake. It ain't about thee. It isn't about me. It is about thee. The United States is about liberty. So Fox and friends, join us on the trail. We'll have some fun. I'll see you out the trail.
The liberty, not for you, for me. He fucks the second line up in his freestyle, and then it goes, something. See you on the trail. We'll see you on the trail. And Steve Ducey goes, wow, and is giving him the clap. He's giving him the applause.
Very nicely done, sir.
And I was just picturing by this point in the album, I was thinking about, what if Steve Ducey goes, oh, we hear you used to rap a little bit in college. Can you do some for us? Oh, well, sure. Lead by the gun, I'ma die by the gun. Lead by the gun, I'ma die by. Oh my! And if that was if instead of that Sugar Hill Gang kind of Eminem sort of.
Nobody can step to me. I got my mom to fake a stud D.
Bitch, I'm busting at him. That
Vivek Ramaswamy got his mom to fake a study to sell.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. This is just me. It's how I feel. I'd love to get some money from Peter Thiel. And then,
I call myself a libertarian. But I think trans kids should be in internment camps. No, it doesn't rhyme. I was trying to rhyme libertarian with camp.
Yeah.
And camp.
So that's kind of where my head was going near the end of this thing. Live by the gun, fun song. And then you talked about For My Dogs. G-Check, I know you were just saying you hate stories. I kind of like G-Check. Weirdly enough, it has no Waka Flocka verse. Just a chorus, but I like the narrative there of, oh, you're coming up, you're saying you're in the gang, the lingo, all these guys who are the features talking about stopping guys who are posers on the street and giving
nothing could bore me more.
Okay, yeah. And so that's kind of, and then we have Smoke Drink and Fuck This Industry. Are there any what tracks jump out to you? Were there ones that I sort of didn't mention?
Well, I sort of listened for the most of my listening through of this album. I listened to kind of an abridged version. I have a playlist that just has 10,000 or 1,000 songs on it or whatever, and it had about 10 or 12 of these songs. So I after. And, I started listening to this, 7-8 years ago or whatever. But I started, I cut my own meat from the chaff pretty early here. So my highlights, going in reverse order.
Okay.
This industry is good. Smoke Drank is fantastic. Snakes in the Grass is fine. I think it's really, the thing that makes it pop out is the Cartier Kitten verse. Cartier Kitten. That wasn't a great impression, but
but it
you shoot them out there.
Yeah.
For My Dogs is just something to live by. Oh, Let's Do It. There's a lot of songs on here that are just as good to me as the songs that became hits. Oh, Let's Do It is one of them. Fuck the Club Up is another fucking fantastic one. And then, the first 4 tracks or the first 5 tracks. And then those are kind of like my big highlights of the album. But yeah, it's got great consistent energy from front to back. I think it's just a lovely, piece of American culture.
Of American culture. Any bars that jump out to you, or as some that stick in your head, real earworm kind of things?
Most of the hooks on here are just stuff that oh, let's do it.
It's super hook.
Oh, let's do it. Love the music, influence. It's the verses are great because they're high energy, but he's not bringing his best stuff a lot of times in the verses.
They are there to get to the hooks.
Yeah, and that's sometimes a problem with rap music, but he carries such a great energy through the verses that they're great. I wouldn't say they're even serviceable. They're great. They are They are good, but just not anything really to hang on to there too much.
Yeah. So I think overall, my thought, I've stopped kind of with this show that's going through this pitchfork list, trying to compare like, oh, why is it this number? Why is it higher than this or lower than this? Unless it feels like really weird.
What's one up and one down of this?
One up of this was.
Oh, and remind me of what the list is. Is it best
the top
500 albums?
Top 200 albums of the 2010s, and the one that was this is 110. The one that was 111 was this album, Past Life, Martyred Saints by EMA, and then the one below this is Julia Halter's Aviary. But I'm more just now. I just think more about, is it worthy of being on a list like this? And I think the answer for this is absolutely yes. I mean, if we're looking at the albums of this decade, it's clear to me, even with just kind of as an outsider or as a newcomer, that this is like a very important piece of work that came out in the decade and really kicked the decade off. And I was a fun listen, and
it's better than Past Life, Martyred Saints.
Yeah. Yes, it has more good. Yes, it is better than Past Life, Martyred Saints. Okay, is it though? Oh man, that's interesting. When I'll have to think more. I wasn't considering that. Flockaveli, man. I didn't realize though, because you're reading about it, and he's like, yeah, I called it Flockaveli as an homage to Tupac, who his final name, he was going by Machiavelli. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, because I've not listened to much Tupac,
Neither have I.
But everybody credits him as being a genius, but it's like he can't be that smart, because Machiavelli was right there. And so, that's a whole other thing. But I want to get into the aftermath of this album a little bit, Aaron, because what I found more interesting than the album was you start to read about it, and obviously there are a ton of, because I wanted to look up, I'm like, what is the Brick Squad? Who's in the Brick Squad? And then you find out, okay, that's Gucci Mane's label, that's his crew, Waka and him, they're close friends. Waka's mom, Gucci's manager, that's all interesting stuff. And then it becomes this tale of backstabbing and murder and deceit and lawsuits and people, a story, which I know isn't your thing. And people, and I just found that really, it ages, I mean, a lot of songs on this album in a fun way. Even in Hard in the Pain, he's talking about how Gucci's his homie. And it seems to me that was a funny thing about every time something, they'd have some crazy falling out, and then they'd go publicly and they'd go, yeah, but no hard feelings anymore. And then then they'd start suing each other. Yeah, no hard feelings though anymore. So, a lot of the songs are colored by this sort of, there's a lot of references actually to Gucci being in jail at the time, and some worries about whether the Brick Squad is going to hold up with Gucci behind bars. So I'm not really familiar with Gucci Mane, Aaron. I mean, is he of the same, I know the name, obviously I know kind of the style. Is he of the same, would you say Flockaveli or Waka Flocka Flame is better than him? I know
a little bit
about,
I don't know too much about the beef between Waka Flocka and Gucci Mane. But in terms of artists, Flockaveli is better than anything Gucci Mane has ever put out, ever. Gucci Mane is one of those like 2 mixtapes a year kind of guys. And to those guys can make some great hits, and there's a lot of great music made by guys who are prolific in that sort of sense, who just sort of dump all their music out there as quickly as possible and just make it as quickly as possible. But Flockaveli as an album is better than anything Gucci Mane has ever done. But in terms of like rapper like echelons, they're probably around the same. Maybe Gucci Mane is even a little bit higher than Flockaveli, because Gucci Mane's post being in jail music is been some of his best work and most consistent work. But yeah, they're pretty similar.
Right. And then so there was this album. There was one more album after this. Then there was talks of Flockaveli 2. And then that has not happened. And about a decade has passed since that. There's been 20-something mixtapes. There's a Flockaveli.
Did that not happen? I could have swore
Flockaveli 2 has not happened. I think it's been announced a couple different times. I think there's been a list of producers that have come out, but the album itself is not ever dropped.
I could have swore it came out as like a Dat Piff exclusive.
Maybe, but I'm not saying Flockaveli 1.5 was a mixtape that came out. So that might be what you're thinking of.
That's probably what I'm thinking of. But I don't know if that was a Dat Piff exclusive. I'm scratching my ear. But that's probably what I'm thinking about.
So some might say Waka Flocka has flamed out. All right, there we go. There's the
That's the final line of the episode?
No. I wish I regretted saying it seconds after, but yeah, fun, good fun album. You know, I've never been crazy about gangster rap. It's still not one of my go-to sort of genres, but I see the fun. You know, I see the fun in that world, and this album certainly brings me there and brings me into it a little bit and has some real hits on it. Any final thoughts from you, Aaron?
I love this album. As you said, it's high energy. It's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of great hooks on here. It's really worth the listening just for the hits. And yeah, I think in my pantheon, my Mount Rushmore of the greatest pieces of Americana ever produced, it goes Bridge Over Troubled Water, the album, then Rumors. So Bridge Over Troubled Water, Rumors, Flockaveli, and then like the Wandering Whistle and Bob Dylan or whatever.
Right. And I love that you said this was culture and these are just all Americana. These are 4 albums. But
what do you mean?
It sounded like it was all mediums were what you were going to give on this Mount Rushmore.
No. It's like the most important pieces of Americana ever produced.
Are Rumors, the Wild Whistle and Bob Dylan, Flockaveli, and whatever the first
Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Bridge Over Troubled Water. And so, Aaron, thank you for coming on. Is there anything that you would like to plug? I know you're get a little gun shy.
I'm not gun shy. I just can't talk about most of the things that most of the things that I'm proudest of in my life. We work on a show. It's one of the things I'm the most proud of in my life. I think it's a great show.
It's so much better than this show. I mean,
by a factor of at least 6, dude.
Yes. Oh, for sure. And with that said, thank you for coming on here.
Are you about to hang up, or are you just like indicating?
I'm just gonna hit stop recording.
That's a button. Okay.